It's like that long pause. I'm like, okay, where we're gonna be shown? But here we are.
Here we are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Our Daily Magic. What Our Daily Magic is magical conversations in which you get to see magical beings showcase their magic. Our belief is we all are magical as fuck. And sometimes we just need that reminder to let us know just how magical we are. So it's our intention for doing that. And our other intention is whoever's listening, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or any of our podcast streams, we want you to find something from this conversation that you can use to cultivate more magic in your daily life.
That's right.
I am one of your co-hosts, Dell, and
I'm Kaí. And we have a super magical guest today, if you can't tell already. This is Jen. And Jen is a tarot reader, an author, a crystal healer, a Reiki Master, a practicing witch, and a success and manifesting empress, with a few other modalities just sprinkled on top. I feel like I could keep going, and this and this and this.
It's true. I do all the things. It just happens. I don't know how, it just happens.
All right. Well, I mean, it takes time to accrue all of these talents and skills. And it makes sense. You've been slinging cards since you were how old?
14.
Whoa. Can you tell us that story?
Oh, yeah. I guess, I've always kind of been the weird kid. I mean, if you couldn't tell, I'm a little different. But, I've always been interested in that. Anything magical, mystical, I was the one, running around in the woods looking for fairies, trying to talk to the animals, and anything that was kind of out of the box, out of the ordinary, different, I just gravitated right to it. So, when I kind of ran into tarot cards, I'm like, what is this? I need to see what this is all about. So, back then, just a couple of years ago, it wasn't that long, it was, you couldn't, there wasn't online that you can just Google it. You couldn't just, go into a metaphysical store even. There weren't a lot of those. So you went to the library. So that was where you can find anything. And they had the little tiny section of 5 books, if you were lucky that they were there. So I just kind of started reading about it. And it was just something that really intrigued me and I needed to do it. So I babysat, saved my money, and I bought my first deck with my babysitting money. And it just went off from there.
Nice. Can I ask which deck it was? What is it? Just a traditional Rider-Waite?
It was just the plain old ugly Rider-Waite because that's the only one they had. I went to a bookstore and that was it. That's all they had. And I'm like, all right, well, let's just see what this is. And that's what I did. I just took the cards out and I was just looking at them and just trying to figure out what all the little things meant in them. And, I just kind of just started building on that. And then as things progressed and we got the internet and became more popular, and then all the different cards started coming out. So, I also have a vast collection, I'll say, of cards. So yeah, so it spiraled. All right, that's what happened. It spiraled.
Right. Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. You find what works for you. You find what you love, and you go for it. Now, since you've been at this for quite some time, you were obviously very magical before being magical was cool, right?
Right.
So how did you deal with that? What was the transition like? Was it oh my gosh, everyone else is finding out that they're magical now too? That's awesome. Or was there, a little bit of feelings behind that?
It was definitely a little bit of both. It was nice that it started becoming mainstream just because then you can find stuff easier, like I always buy herbs and stuff like that. And it was hard to find them for a while, and then, you grew your own if you didn't have it. So that it was the good part of it. Like I liked that. And then, like I said, the decks, then everyone's creating these decks and they're all just so gorgeous. And it's awesome to see the different take, everybody's different view, perspective on the cards. So that was really, a cool thing. And then, the other side of it too was then just the false information, things that weren't quite right. And they're out there and they're just believing it. They're like, yeah, this is the right way. And this is the only way. And you're just like, oh no, no, that isn't it, and I also think too that, people also coming on telling you what is right and what is wrong. And that was something that I always loved about being a practicing witch, is that you create your own practice and you study all the things, and then you kind of take what you resonates with you from everything. And then there you go, there's your practice. And there's a lot of people online, especially now, saying, well, no, you can't do it that way. You can't do this that way. And that drives me just bananas. I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with you. That is not your practice. It doesn't resonate with you. Back off. So, I do a lot of teaching. I have done, just guiding some like baby witches, just to show them that it's about them. It's about what that resonates with them and what makes them happy and makes them feel spiritual and feel connected to spirit and all of those things. And, other people can have their opinions. That's fine. The saying about opinions, it's like an asshole. Everyone has one. So it's one of those things. You just got to keep moving forward and just say, thank you. Keep going, and I always say too, it's like when you're pregnant or you have a newborn baby and everyone either is telling you a horror story or telling you you're doing it wrong. And you just smile and nod. Okay, thank you. And you just do whatever the hell you want. So that is definitely how it goes. But yeah, so that's the kind of yin and yang of it, I think. For sure.
Amazing. I had two questions. One, for a baby witch, would it be called a witchling?
Yeah, you can definitely call him a witchling, for sure.
I just throw it out there, like a duckling.
Definitely. And actually, one of my friends created a tarot deck, and it's called the Witchling Tarot. So there you go. Look, you got it, Del. It's yours. You got
it. Hashtag witchlings.
Right.
Another one, because you hit on a great point, and I know it's going to resonate with so many people out there, in which you discover your own truth and you're doing your own truth, but then other people have their opinion about your own truth of like, oh, this is wrong. This is not the right way of doing it. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially in the spiritual community and any community as well, get bombarded by so many people and the pressure, that external pressure that could potentially happen out there for trying to fit in, try to do stuff in a way to get accepted by others in the community or things like that. That's a superpower that you just talked about just so nonchalantly. So my question for you is, how are you able to do that?
I think that's just something I've always had. Like, I don't worry about other people. I don't worry about what they're doing, and the whole fitting in thing. I mean, I think that people put so much on that. Like, we have to fit in. We have to fit in. The fitting in isn't important. It's like owning your truth, owning yourself, owning what you believe in. That's important, because when you're walking around town and you're like owning your shit, nobody's going to question you then. When you're going on and you're saying, well, I think I'm going to do it this way. Maybe I should do it that way. I feel like that just like opens that door for people to give their opinion on it and how you should be doing it, because they're like, yeah, see, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to tell them what they need to do. So I think it's really just focusing on yourself and focusing, like building your base practice, so that when other people do give their opinions, it's just that, great. Oh, that's awesome. Maybe I'll try that someday. And then you just do whatever you want. You do whatever works for you, because, I think as you're going along, and if you are somebody that just keeps taking these opinions from others and, say that you have to do a spell and they're like, well, you have to do it this way, and this way, or it's not going to work, then, you're going along doing that and you already have it in your head that it's not going to work, but you're just going through the motions anyway. It doesn't feel right. And then nothing comes of it. And you'll see, I didn't do it right. I must have done it. I should have done it this way or that way. And it didn't work because you weren't listening to yourself. You weren't listening to your guides. You weren't listening to, your inner knowing, and I think that's what a lot of people don't do. They ignore that. They don't realize that, that's where the magic is. That's where all of it resonates from, is that inner knowing and trusting it, and it takes time. It does take time. And I do think a lot of people, they want to do all the things right away, and like Kaí said, I have all these modalities, but I've been doing this a long time, and they all just kind of rolled into another and another, and it just kept going. And here I am. But you need to be patient with yourself as well. You need to be patient and just start small. You're not going to, if you do rituals, some people don't, I mean, literally you can hold a crystal and make an intention. There you go. There's your that's magic. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to be wearing cloaks and doing salt circles for anything to work. Hey, if that's what you love and that's your thing, you go for it. And I give you all the power to, because I really don't have time to do that a lot of the time. Most of the time, I'm like, lights, put some herbs and oils on some candles, put some crystal around it, throw an intention at it. Okay, good. I gotta go. So, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I think even with reading tarot or any of these other modalities, people think that they overcomplicate it because they see what everyone else is doing. And, I think it's also important to realize that if you're watching somebody, a tarot reader online, how long they've probably been doing it for a while, and you're just starting. So you're not going to be there because they have all that experience of all the readings, practicing their intuition, because, that's a muscle. You gotta work it. Right. And just realizing that, like, it's okay that I'm a beginner. It's okay that I'm just starting, and, and just work on that base practice and go from there.
Thank you. And you made another valid point to go into. And that's the potential comparison that we all are guilty of in our own journey. And I was actually talking to Kaí about that comparison. Like, for me, I tell her I do comparison out of curiosity, not comparison out of my ego. So you go with comparison and seeing somebody who, like you say, has done the work, and now they're flourishing, and you see that, you just see them flourishing, but you don't get present to the fact of all the work and the practice and the fail they may have done to get to where they are right now. You just see this person as a statue. Oh my God, they're so much better than me. I can never get to that. And then you could potentially beat yourself up. And what I like to do is, if I see somebody in my field that has that steam going, I get curious. Like, oh, I wonder how they started. And this is what I do a lot of, like famous YouTube people or people out there who have a powerful message I resonate with. I always go back in the past to their very first message, and you really get to see them from the beginning until now, like all the ways they fine tweaked it. But even when it first came out, it was like, oh wow, the way they first came out was sort of similar to like how I am right now. But you get to see the path of what they have done, and you can get curious and use that way of like integrating some tools for yourself to accelerate your process.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I do that too. I'll tell people to do that as well. Like, even, you see Instagram person, and they have this beautiful Instagram feed, and they're doing lives, and they're posting all these deep messages, and you're just like, how, I'm looking at a card, and I'm like, okay, so this is saying no. That's all I'm getting from it, Meanwhile, this person just wrote this whole page full of stuff. You're like, how did that happen? And I'll do the same thing. I'm like, go to their first couple of posts, and guess what? It's like 1 or 2 sentences long. and watch them, watch their lives, watch their videos, and just see how when they first started, it was awkward and they're shuffling around and they're umming all the time. And to now where they're just like, yeah, this is what it is, boom, 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 done. And I think too, just showing people that, yeah, everybody starts somewhere, and don't be afraid to even ask these people, you know, if you, a lot of times I have like an email address on there and stuff, and send them a message, be like, you know, do you have any tips for me? Do you have any pointers? And I've had people do that to me, and I don't mind that at all. You know, I'm like, yeah, do this, this, and this, try it out. And they, you know, I think that's also another thing, is that it's the competitiveness, you know, especially I think tarot readers definitely, they're just trying to be better. I'm going to be better than this one. I'm going to post more than this. And I'm going to, you know, and then you forget that there are people that are just beginning, and you're there to help people. That's the whole reason why you're doing it. That's the whole reason why you're doing all these other things, is you're here to help them. And you know what? There's so many different types of readers, and there's enough people in the world for everyone, you know, and every reader is, you know, it's a different personality. Like I may get somebody who doesn't like how I read, but maybe somebody else, they love how they read, and that's okay, because we're all different. Our perception is all coming from a different space, and you have to find somebody that matches up with you. So there's nothing wrong with that. And there is room for everyone. So don't not help other readers, or even just other people in your spiritual community, because you're afraid that they might steal your people or whatever, you know. And that is, you know, and I have run into that, and I've definitely had people, you know, and I'm just like, you know what, that's fine, whatever. Like, I just don't let it bother me. I'm just like, you know, you do what you have to do, that's fine, but I'm not like that. So I'm going to just continue on my journey. You can continue on yours, you know, and that's it. That's all you can do. And there's no reason, you know, even to engage with anybody that's acting like that, because most times you'll see that they aren't getting as far as they like, because they're putting that out there. It's all what you're putting out there, you know. Yeah. You got to keep it good, or else you're going to be bored and just sitting there reading cards for yourself, and that's it.
Yeah. It's like the ones who preach about abundance goes in the actions as if they're lacking.
Right. Yes. Like, yes. Well, it's not overcompensating for it, you know, and you just have to really just believe what you're putting out there. And like I said, it all comes to your inner knowing, and that's what it comes back to. And whatever you're saying, whatever you're putting out there, you have to believe it. You know, you can go online and even just talking to somebody face to face, and you can spew all the abundance and manifesting stuff you want. But if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. You know, they're just going to be like, oh, okay, that's nice. You sound like a commercial. Bye. You know, and that's it. You don't want
that. Yeah. It's interesting. And they still make money. Like people who preach that, but then they don't have it in their own life. So I'm like, should I listen to what they got to say? Or
right. It is, and it can be so confusing too, because you know for me again, it's going and just like looking at their posts and just looking, even just like when they're speaking, for that consistency. Because if they're going on a live every week and changing it every week and completely changing it, like I've seen a couple that do that. It's like you could tell that they're searching, they're looking for something that works. So they're just kind of like trying to like spew it out there. So let's see what sticks, you know. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And, you know, after a while, you know, they may be going and they may be successful, but they don't really have any like long-term people. It's just a lot of those like one and dones, and that's it. And you can see that as they go along too. And, you know, you just, you know, send them some good energy, send them some good luck, and learn from it. Like you said, be like, okay, this is what I'm not going to do. This is what I'm not pulling into my practice. So what can I do? How can I make it so that it is just pure and meaningful and really helps people and resonates with them?
Thank you. Did you just help me right there? Because I'm one of those people just like that. Well, here and there of throwing stuff out there. Like for me, I'm so like okay with myself that I give myself permission to like try something out. It's and like fail by trying it.
Mhm.
So like for me, I'm working on tailoring my message in a way. And my wife, she gave me perfect feedback. She's like, "Yo, you're speaking from here," and people are like right here. Like you gotta like meet people from right here to bring them up here. So I was like, that makes sense.
Right. And it is. And it's funny because I think, especially when you've been practicing for so long and, you talk to other spiritual people, like you said, you're riding up here. You guys you're just going. It's fine. But when you are trying to help and teach people to, you have to bring it down. And to you, it sounds like it may sound so basic. You're like, everybody knows this, but they don't,
Yeah.
and you are delivering it in a way that is like magnetic and enticing, and you're like, and they're like, whoa, this really resonates with me. I've heard this before, but the way he's saying it, like it may, I can really do this, so it's all about just finding that energetic level that works for everyone. and I think keeping it basic is really important, but knowing too that once you really have that following in those people, they want to know more. They're going to want to learn from you. So then that's when you can start, whipping out the good stuff, and be like, here we go. This is what we're doing, and then they're already engaged. They know you, they feel that energy, and then they're just ready for it at that point, And I love that. I love that part of it too. And I just love seeing people, like the light bulbs going off, like, oh, I can do this. Like I can tap into this and it's okay. And, nobody's going to die. The entities aren't going to invade my house. You know what I mean? Because that's, you always have those fun questions, especially when you're doing readings and stuff. And they're just like, well, are you going to tell me I'm going to die? No, I do not want that responsibility. We'll leave that to the Grim Reaper and higher powers, because I don't want that. I'm not.
It's like
ridiculous, but I'm not going to tell you you're going to die. So you're okay with me there.
It's like, for anybody who's asking if they're going to die, the answer is yes. The question is
very
the question
true.
is when.
That is a fact. Very true. Yes.
So
and I'm not going to give that answer either. Like I'm not having any part of that. Yes, it will happen. I don't know when. Done.
Yeah.
Next question.
I'm gonna need to pull the cards out for that. I'm gonna need to pull my cards out for that. Yes.
That's it. That's all I have. Bye. The cards are spoken.
That's a really great point that you're bringing up here, is that, there's tons of people, especially now, from different backgrounds, different religious upbringings, different spiritual practices, and we're all kind of like, coming into this melting pot of magic. Is there any particular way that you like to, approach a person who's maybe coming from, any particular backgrounds? Like, for instance, there are lots of Christian people now who are interested in a tarot reading. Do you cater your language? Do you ask specific questions? Do you read a certain way? Have you ever encountered that? Like, I have so many questions around that.
Yes, and yes. It's really funny because a lot of Christian people, Catholic, anything, they do come for readings quite a bit. And it's always funny to me because, they have their beautiful crosses on, they're coming in, they have, and here they are asking me these questions. And I always, I always just take a minute, like, just to like think about like exactly what I'm doing right now. Like this person who is believes in their structured religion, which is absolutely okay. But here they are kind of tiptoeing out of it just because they want to know more and they have these questions and they don't, there's somewhere in there that they don't feel like they can pray enough on these or something. There's something that's calling them outside of their box. So that is something I always think is interesting. And I will ask them, like, why did you come for a tarot reading today? Like, what brought you here today? Because really, I want to know. Like, I'm like, can you just like spill the tea here? Because I need to know exactly why you're here talking to me right now. And, a lot of them, it's curiosity. And I think because, especially now, it's becoming more mainstream. Again, we have the internet. They're seeing everybody popping up on here, and they're seeing all these things. And it's funny because my husband's family is very Catholic, and his mom, she's got some of her friends, and I've done readings for her friends, and it's great. Like, I love it. They're so into it, and the one particular friend, I used the Golden Girls tarot, and she loved it. So I do tend to use decks that are more fun. That they're not like the super scary decks or anything like that have like harsh images or jarring images. I love them, but I know they're not for everyone. So I will make the decks a little bit more fun and more, nothing too complicated, just so that they see it and they aren't, frightened of it, but she loved it. She's like, oh my gosh, this is the Golden Girls. And she was all in it, and she was totally comfortable. So for me, a lot of times I just ask questions and I just get them comfortable. And I'm like, do you have any questions about this? And that's usually when are you going to tell me I'm going to die kind of questions, or do I have entities or anything like that? So I just make them comfortable, and I talk to them and I let them know. And then we just go along and we just do the reading. And a lot of times too, we will get to the end of the reading, and my readings are more kind of, I guess, depending on the person, more kind of coaching too, because they do come with a problem. So it's more of like a coaching. So I always give homework with my readings. And, I will give them, something to do. And a lot of times I'll be like, you know what, maybe instead of, praying for this, maybe pray for that. Or if you do a rosary, maybe use a different wording or different intention, like add this into it instead of that. And, I think that makes it more cohesive and just gives it that flow of like, yeah, it can be both, it can both flow together, and you can use both of them for your own greater good and to help you, elevate and move forward. Because again, that's what it all comes down to. It's just helping people elevate themselves and become better people and move into that, their higher selves, that it's been so ignored for so long, and nobody, really, goes up in that space unless they're, having a dream or something. So, I just like to show them that. I like to show them that it's okay, and that you can do that, and you can get your questions answered and still practice and go to church, and it's all okay. It all works together, and everybody's friends.
Right.
It's fine. It's just fine. And I do actually know a good amount of Christian witches. And they, they believe in Jesus. They, I don't want to fully speak for them because it's something that I don't fully understand, but I am learning, but it's, from people that I've talked to, they believe in Jesus, and they don't always go to church. A lot of them aren't super like go to actually a structured church. They take more of like the nature spin on things. So, they incorporate both of those. Whoops, sorry. They will incorporate both of those. And that's something that I think brings it all together for them. So that, like I said, that's something I'm still learning about. And that's just me just talking to them and just seeing how they incorporate everything and bring it all together. And I think it's very interesting. I really do. I think it's a very interesting concept to bring that, to really meld them together. And so that's kind of where I am with that. But I think you can still practice any religion and still bring that extra magic into it, because again, it's yours. And really, it doesn't even need a name, but we like to label things. So sometimes people need that label to put it on there. And a lot of times they've already been practicing it all along and they don't even know it until they see something online and they're like, wait a minute, that's magic? It's like, yeah, you kind of do it all the time.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. And also it shows like a lot of contradictions, meaning things that people who are like predominantly mostly like religious, they're doing practices that are magic, but then somebody else is doing the same thing, but they're not doing it with the labels they have. So they're going to shame this other person for doing something that they already are doing as well. So it's like it's very interesting.
It is interesting. I mean, and really you could bring that even to the simplest thing of birthday candles. That's a pagan practice, you know. They did that to, you know, bring the luck into the new year, to have the gods bless them. And, you know, how many people blow up birthday candles every day and they don't even know that that's a pagan practice, you know. And, you know, and that even really rolls even into holidays too, because most of the holidays are, you know, mirror pagan practices and pagan holidays. So if you know, I love theology. I love studying just all religions. And, you know, way back when, you know, the Catholic Church was like, hey, I want to own all these lands. I'm going to conquer all of them. And so they started going through, and these pagans are like, I don't know what you are or what you're doing, but get out of here. So they had to adapt it, you know, and they had to adapt all of their religions to make those pagan elements into to convert them so they can conquer that land, you know, which it's really crazy if you think about it. I mean, that was like quite the move, you know, and it all really came down to money and greed, unfortunately. So, you know, thankfully, though, a lot of, you know, all the pagan practices, they're here. We know about them. So it's all that word of mouth that they were able to keep that and keep those traditions alive throughout all these years. And here we are now still doing those things. So I think that's, you know, pretty awesome compared, like, just knowing like all that they went through and just all of that being squashed. But you know what, here we are. We're all here spiritual doing our thing. And, you know, I think that's pretty awesome. And I do think when people are first learning too, that it's really, I think it's important to dive into that a little bit and really, so you can just get that appreciation. And I feel like it's just that connection as well of it, you know, because all of that too is brought over here. You know, just so many cultures and traditions were brought over here. And I think that we need to really appreciate those people and what they brought over, knowing they were probably going through some really crazy stuff, you know?
Yeah. And as typical Americans, when things come over here, how can we make money off of this?
How can we market this and put a label on it? There you go. It's for everyone.
Yeah. You see all around now.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think people just doing their research is really important. You know, if you see something online and you're like, oh, that looks really cool, don't just go ahead and do it. And I think a lot, especially with like just herbal stuff too. If you see somebody on TikTok making some herbal concoction, like this is going to do this and this and this, and here they are guzzling it down, I recommend you don't do that. And I recommend you talk to an herbalist or you study it yourself and don't just go jumping on the train. And that's even, you know, especially with all the craziness, you know, last year, it's the whole Moldavite thing. Don't get me started with that. Like that is out.
What about Moldavite? I just bought one. Like
somebody on TikTok made a video about it. So all these kids were buying it, and they're saying buying it, your life will transform in 24 hours and stuff like that. Oh, wow. And I'm like, no, okay. You need to study that a little bit, and really, because a lot of people, everybody has different reactions to crystals, but that one can really cause some major anxiety for people. And they're just buying it all up and thinking that they're going to just have these great, wonderful transformations. And, you know, we all know transformation isn't always pretty. And you got all these teenagers in the middle of their hormones, in the middle of growing. And here they are like buying all that. And it's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? So just research is so important. It's so very important.
You imagine like teenagers having dark nights of the soul.
Yeah. Don't they already?
Yeah, right.
I have 4 boys. And 2 of them, my 2 youngest are teenagers right now. Two of mine are my second just turned 21, so he's an adult, we'll say.
You look so young. Like,
yeah, actually my oldest is 26. Yes, I started very young. I was a teenager when I started, so having children. I started very early. Don't recommend that either. Don't do that, children of the world. Go to school. No, I did start very early. Very early. Oh, so but they are pretty witchy too. My oldest, he's into tarot. And they're all musicians and stuff too. So we're just a bunch of artsy fartsy people over here.
Nice, yeah.
That's also a magical expression right there with music.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm actually learning because, you know, I'm always learning something. And that's the other thing too. Never stop learning. And that, you know, it's one of those things I always say to my kids too. The minute you think you know everything, you know nothing. So don't ever claim to know everything. But so I am actually just started learning about sound healing and different sound modalities and stuff like that. So it's really awesome. And, you know, because, you know, I do have a house full of musicians and there was playing guitar. My one son, he does sound engineering. So there's always bass in my house somewhere. And, you know, he actually, my 17-year-old was talking to me about it because somebody had asked him to make some beats for him. And he was talking about just the different, like the sound frequencies and the different sound frequencies to get like different energy out of it. And, you know, and here's my 17-year-old schooling me on sound frequencies. I'm like, okay. But he said, you know, there's, you know, when he's making beats for certain people and they want a certain vibe to their music, you know, he will do that. He'll change the sound frequencies to make that work. So, you know, I just thought that was really cool that he and that's something I didn't even tell him. That's something that just came out of him to do. And as I'm learning now about all the sound healing and stuff like that, it's all about that, you know, just using the different notes and the different sound frequencies and to heal certain parts of your body or bring on certain emotions. So I just thought that was super cool. And I that just making that connection too, I thought was really neat. So that's something I'm diving into at the moment.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I really like it.
And I'm so curious, you know, like how did you like introduce them to magic? Was it just by you being who you are in the household, or was there a magic conversation like we have the birds and the bees?
No, you know what? That conversation is enough. I don't want any more of those. That's enough. Like, come on, I can't do any more of those. Really, it's just how, you know, I think just because I just live it. It's my everyday. You know, and for me, it's just was including them in on that and answering their questions and showing them things. I mean, even now, I'm still telling them certain things to do or certain crystals and stuff like that if they're really into them, you know, and what they do and how they work. And I really try to focus on telling them too, just about like what you put out will come back to you and that sort of thing. Really being mindful, you know, because teenagers, you know, really aren't, or even kids, you know, kids are, they're not so mindful. As in they're thinking about what other people are doing. They're more of themselves mindful. Like, I want to feel this way, so I'm going to do that. And then, you know, goes into the teenager part. And that's where it's more like being mindful of others and being mindful of what you're sending out. And you can, you can change that. If you're feeling a certain way, then you take a minute, then go outside, ground, deep breaths, get a crystal, and just teaching them to take that minute. It's okay to take a minute to ground yourself and get into your right headspace and your right energetic flow before you deal with people and before, you go about doing anything, in your day, and making that a habit and making that something that is just so second nature to you too. I think that was something really important I wanted to show them. And like my oldest, he does tarot. He loves it. So, and my other ones, they'll kind of dabble in it a little bit. My 17-year-old I was just talking about, he really loves crystals and stuff like that. My youngest, really, he's into energy. He's really sensitive to it. So that's something for him that I really work on. Creating energy, closing off energy, not letting other people's energy get to you and absorbing that and letting that control you in a way. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on the kid and really their questions. And, for me too, that even goes into my nieces and nephews. Some of my nieces, they're really, so I just answer their questions and I show them how they can use it to kind of up-level themselves and be a better person. So yeah, I love teaching kids and I love showing kids stuff. Like my little niece, I have a 3-year-old niece, like I live on top of a mountain. So I live on top of a mountain in the Adirondacks of New York. So I'm very high up. So we have like 30 acres of land, like the whole side of the mountain. So I take my nieces out and we'll just go fairy hunting. And I'll show them these little, like, there's fairy circles you can find. I show them, just like the crevices and the different places where they hide and where you can tell where fairies were and how to work with them and stuff like that. And, they're so open-minded. They just suck it all up. They love it, and I love that. I love that, just seeing them being excited about it and just like, yeah, they know that there's magic. And I think when an adult is like, yeah, there's magic, it just makes it so much, more, it's just so more real to them. And hopefully they keep that and they don't lose it like so much of us do when we get a little bit older, So that is something that that is important for me too. It's just helping those little, helping the kids like keep their magic,
Yeah.
For sure. Love it. I told you I do all the things.
You sure do. And that is another superpower of yours. Speaking of all the things, we're talking about how you have an integrated approach to, just being with and in the space with other religions and other spiritual practices. How do you reconcile the variety of practices that you partake in yourself? I mean, we're talking tarot, kriya, tea leaves, Reiki, crystals. Do some of them play well together?
A lot of them do. And you know what? It's again, all a part of creating your own practice is you take what resonates with you and you leave the rest. So and I also I do love bringing them all together and using them together. And, when I'm doing a tea leaf reading, for instance, and, something's coming up, I may give them a kriya to do, or again, that comes into like the homework part of things. Like I give them that homework, like, like, this is what we got from your reading. And maybe it's in a health issue or something. So can I also offer you some Reiki? Or maybe some crystal healing, as well, or let me teach you how to use a crystal to heal yourself, or to maybe, open yourself up to receive. So they all really do. They can really all intermingle really well. And I think it's just really that intention behind it, because intention is everything. We don't need any of these tools. We really don't. Because intention is everything. And that's, again, that inner knowing. And that's what your magic is. So if you don't have that stuff available to you, that's okay. You can still use it. You can still do it. And it's awesome because that is what it comes down to. But for me, I'll always have tarot cards around me because I love them, and that's it. That's just who I am. I always have cards around me. Like I'm even my desk, I have like a pile right here. I won't show you because it's a mess, but it's right there, and there's a whole bunch of them. So, and then and I am creating a deck too myself. So of course, when that comes out, I'm gonna be having, I'll have that with me always probably. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. That's gonna be a lot.
Perfect.
Definitely.
I actually had another question for what you mentioned on what you have taught kids for protecting their energy. And I'm sure a lot of empaths out there would love to ask this question too as well. So what are some pointers that you would give for somebody? Because I hear a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm an empath. I go into this place. I'm taking on everybody's stuff, and I can't be here. I got to leave." That type of stuff. So, how do you feel that, like an empath or anyone in particular, to protect their energy when they step into a space?
Right. That it is a question I do get so much too. Really, again, it's like a mindset thing. I think if you're going into a space that may have a lot of different energy and a lot of different things going on, before you go in, just take a minute, close your eyes, and just set the intention. My energy is my own. I am in charge of my energy, and nobody else's energy is allowed to, come into my space. Like, I'm not allowing it, because you have that. You can give and take away permission in energy. And a lot of people, I think, don't know that. They don't realize that. Excuse me. So I think even just going into it, say, I do not give anybody's energy permission to come in contact with mine or come into my space. I think that's really, really important that people know that, because that is something, by just doing that, you're putting your energy in that mindset of like, no, I'm not accepting right now. Even if you say that, I don't accept, I'm not accepting. Going, if you can get outside, even after the fact, put your hand on a tree, put your hand on grab even a rock or anything, and just feel, all of that, just going into that rock or going into that tree and thanking, and you always say thank you when you're giving energy or receiving energy. So you just thank you for, taking this energy and reuse it as needed. And so that it's just kind of transmuted and brought back into the earth, recycled and used for something else. And if you can't get outside or do any of those things, running your hands under cool water. Just go in the bathroom, go in the kitchen, run your hands under cool water. And then again, just seeing, imagining just that energy just flowing that you don't need, just flowing out of you and just flowing down the sink again to just be reused in a different way. For some people too, I will also just tell them to just imagine a bubble around them, just like an energetic bubble. The kids like that, like, oh, I'm in a bubble, but for adults, it works just as great, and it's really just knowing that, again, you have that barrier up, and that's giving that permission. Like, no, you're not allowed to come into my bubble. And that's a saying, like, people say that all the time, but that's like, you can really actually do that. And that can take time, that can take practice. And even if you just, you can just run your hands down, like, just, this is my barrier, this is my bubble, that's it. Nobody can get into it. Even just, you can always just grab a crystal, any dark crystal that you have. And like I said, even if you get a rock outside, and just give it a job, and that's what, crystals and anything, like they like to have jobs. So you let them know, this is what I'm using you for today. Thank you. And you carry that rock around knowing that that's absorbing anybody's energy. So that, I think, is an important thing. And then hydrating is very, very important, because you are literally flushing it out, and that just clears your energy as well. And for anybody that's very empathic or just knowing, one of my favorite things to do actually is on a windy day, just go outside and just open your arms wide and imagine your aura just expanding through you, and just let the wind blow through it and just blow all the gunk out and just blow anything. Like, just imagine it just getting rid of anything that doesn't belong to you. And for me on the mountain, it's a little bit easier. I think I just did it actually. I did a video on one of my Instagram posts that has me outside in the wind. And really just thinking just of it all just going, and then just seeing that, you know, going right back into you. And then you feel so much better afterwards. You really do. Like, it's literally like the wind just went through your whole body and soul, and you're just like, okay, like, it's like you can breathe again, you know? So that's something, like, if on a windy day, like, I'm like, just get outside and do it. Most people don't like windy days. And I'm like, this is a reason to give you, you know, gives you a reason to like a windy day. It's just to get out there and clean your aura, and you feel so much better afterwards. You really do.
For like a rainy day too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Get out there. And, you know, and it's going all back to your like inner child again, you know, because when the kids, they believe in all the magic, and that just brings you back to that inner child of when you did believe in all of that. If that's something that, you know, maybe you lost a little bit, and just going outside again, grounding and connecting, and just like, this is where I am. I'm on earth right now. These plants are here. All of these things are here to help me and nourish me and carry me along. And just giving that appreciation, because, you know, also giving gratitude is a release. And that also helps in that flow and that cycle of everything. So, you know, if you are feeling burdened by everybody else's emotions and stuff, you know what, just say thank you. You know, thank you for letting me take part. Maybe I helped somebody, but now I'm releasing it. You know, now I don't need this. I'm releasing it. I'm letting it go, you know, but thank you for giving me that space to maybe help someone else. And I think that too really helps, again, with that flow, and just helps to get rid of it, you know. And again, it's a permission, and you're giving permission, and you're thanking it, and there you go. Off it goes. And then hopefully you feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
All that stuff. All those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is really great. I mean, it's also really awesome to hear about all of the natural resources around you, and how you take advantage of, you know, being in such an abundant environment. You know, you've got the mountain on your side, you've got the wind, you've got your herbs. There's just like everything is your friend.
Yes. No, it is. And you really, you know, I think when you just really pay attention to it, you're mindful of it, and you're just giving it some space in your head, then you realize, like, I'm not here alone. I'm not just trudging along. There are so many things around me that can help me and move me along and make me feel better, you know, and in a way that is, you know, helpful to you, and maybe helpful to the earth, helpful to other people. And again, you know, and again, it's that inner child, and just bringing that out. And when people, I think, are really feeling weighed down or anything like that, I think do something you used to like as a kid, you know, maybe that is like running outside in the rain. Like, why not? Why can't you do it? Because you're going to get wet. Big deal. You take a shower, right? You know, and but people don't, they forget that, you know, they forget that. And I think it's just reconnecting that. And that just helps you to kind of just like reconnect your whole body, and then that flow again, and then that energy will just flow throughout you, and then that will help you connect to your higher self. So it all like runs together, so that you can really just, you know, level yourself up and work the best you can, and be the best person that you can be. And, you know, really, and it comes down to just feeling the best you can feel, because there is so much thrown at us during a day that we can just get so weighed down by it. And I've even told people, like, when I'm in readings and stuff like that, I'll be like, you know what you're going to do tonight? You're going to go and color. You are going to sit down for 15 minutes and color. And they're looking at me like, what the hell are you talking? I'm like, no, this is what you're going to do. And I'm like, you better do it. And they'll come out, you know, come talk to me afterward. And they're like, you know what? That was really nice. Like, I felt like calm, and I felt so much better after, because it's just recentering. You're recentering yourself, you know, and then that just kind of helps you as well. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all of these tools and resources that we've been talking about, this is amazing. And what would you say to a beginner?
I would just say, don't be afraid to do it. Research, really read all different views on it. Don't just pick one path and just read about that, because no matter what you decide to do down the line, that doesn't really matter right now. You're just, again, getting that information. You're like curating your own practice right now. So you need to tap into a little bit of everything so that you can see what resonates with you to create that. And talk to other people. Don't be afraid to reach out to other people as well. Like I said, I don't mind at all when people send me an email asking me questions. And, I will direct you. I'll give you some resources that you can try or look into to see if it works for you or not. And really just build that base so that you can own it. And like we were saying at the beginning, just so that you when you get to that point, you own it, and people, whatever they're saying doesn't matter, because you know what you believe, you know what resonates with you, and you know what the best thing for you is. So when other people start throwing their opinions at you, because it's going to happen, that's just life, it happens. Then you know, and you're like, you know what? No, this is what feels good to me. So this is how I'm going to do it. And that's it. Done. There, you can just shut all those people down. And don't be afraid to answer people's questions that aren't in like magical or spiritual. Don't be afraid to ask, as long as they're respectful, and, if they're asking you some stupid ass question and you're just like, what? No, just don't. You don't have to answer all the questions, and you don't have to argue, and you don't have to engage with them, because the more you engage with them and argue back, it validates that they're right. Like you're doing something wrong. So you have to just keep going. You know what? You say, this is what I believe. This is how I see it, and leave it, and don't engage with it, because they're just trying to put their insecurities onto you. And nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. And it has nothing to do with you. And most of those things that those people throwing at are coming from their own, insecurity, like I said. So they're just trying to put that on you to give you doubt, because they're doubtful. And, own it. Just own it. Just own what you feel and how you feel, and trust your intuition. That is so, so important, is to trust your intuition, because it is real. It is valid. And your feelings are real and valid, and they matter. And I think people, adults and kids, need to just be told that so much, just so they know that, not to second guess themselves.
Got to be into it.
Ha ha.
Into it.
That was great. Yes. That was awesome. I love it.
This was a powerful conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
We covered all the bases, I think. No, thanks for having me on. I love it. That was great.
Yeah. I got so much out of this. I'm pretty sure you did. And whoever's listening as well, they definitely got something out of this as well. And for those of you who have, and wherever you're looking at or watching this or listening to it, if this impacted you just as much as impacted us, share one person who is on their own path, discovering their own magic, just to hear these conversations. Or maybe they're not even on that path yet. Maybe you are someone who is bombarded by opinions by others, and have an opportunity for standing your truth and following what your heart tells you, your intuition. And look what happens. You get to be in mountains playing, having fun.
In the wind, in mountains, surrounded by rainbows.
Yeah. It's magical. Follow your intuition, magic happens.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just be open. Just be open to receive. It's really, that's where magic happens.
Sweet. And with that, Jen, would you mind telling everyone where they can find you and all the wonderful things that you do?
Stardust, Wanderer Tarot, pretty much on all the things. That is, I do a lot on Instagram. I'm on there a lot as well. And also, like I mentioned before, I'm creating a tarot deck by the same name. My artist is working through the cards right now. So we have probably 25, 30 cards done. And there are 78 cards in a deck. So got a little ways to go. It takes a minute. But if you go on my Instagram, on my highlights, I had released 2 cards for everyone to see, the Fool and the Magician. And you can sign up for my Kickstarter alert for when that gets going as well. I also do the Instagram page for the Cartomancer magazine. And that is the magazine that I also contribute to every issue. I'm on there, and I do some interviews with some big tarot people in there, and they're really a lot of fun just to talk to them and see what they're up to as well. And that's connected to my Instagram page at Stardust Wanderer. And I guess that's pretty much it. I'm just there and do all the things, and you can go on my website, find out more about the different services I offer. And if you're interested in any of that, you can go ahead and schedule right on there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What an honor it is to have you here and to bear witness to your amazing wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes.
No, I love it. It was good. So
yeah. Awesome. And thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you. We see you. Keep showing up, and we'll keep showing up too.
Stay magical.